Okay, let's dive into this. We hear this word DevOps thrown around all the time, right? But what does it actually mean? I'll tell you what it's not. It's not just a tool you can buy or a new job title. It's really a story, a journey about completely transforming how we build and deliver software. A story about moving from total frustration to, well, a state of flow. And that whole journey, that whole story, it starts right here, with probably the most infamous, most frustrating phrase in the entire world of software. I mean, come on, you've heard this. This one sentence perfectly captures the core conflict, the blame game, that nightmare that plagued tech teams for decades. This is the exact problem DevOps was born to solve.
So to really appreciate the solution, we have to go back and look at the problem. For years, the world of software was split in two, defined by this massive, invisible barrier.
And they called it the wall of confusion. You had developers on one side writing code, and the operations team on the other trying to keep things running. The developers would finish their work and then pretty much just lob it over the wall. And when things inevitably broke in production, and trust me, they always did, the finger-pointing would start. It created so much friction, slowed everything down, and made releasing software this incredibly stressful, high-risk event.
But then, people started asking, what if there's a better way? What if instead of building these walls higher and higher, we just focused on building bridges instead? This right here is the fundamental shift in thinking, the very core of what DevOps is all about.
And this philosophy is really guided by three main principles, often called the three ways. First is systems thinking. It means you stop worrying only about your little piece of the puzzle and start optimizing the entire flow, from an idea all the way to the customer. Second, you amplify feedback. The goal here is to find problems super fast, right when they happen, because that's when they're cheap and easy to fix. And third, and this one is so important, you build a culture of continual learning, where every mistake is a lesson, not an excuse to blame someone.
And this loop, the infinity loop, is the perfect visual for that whole philosophy. It shows that this thing never ends. It's not a straight line with a finish. No, whatever we learn from monitoring our app out in the real world feeds directly back into planning the very next feature. It just keeps going, a continuous cycle of getting better and better.
Now, a philosophy is awesome, but you can't build a bridge with just good intentions, right? You need the right tools. So let's look at the foundational gear that actually makes this whole DevOps mindset possible.
And everything, and I mean everything, starts with Git. In a DevOps world, Git isn't just for the application code anymore. Your infrastructure, your automation pipelines, your documentation, all of it is treated as code. Git becomes this single source of truth that tracks every single change made by anyone at any time. It's the bedrock of collaboration. Next up, you have the cloud. Specifically, Infrastructure as a Service, or IaaS. This was a complete game changer. Seriously, it meant that teams could stop waiting weeks for physical servers to be ordered and delivered. Instead, they could just provision the exact server they needed in seconds with a simple API call. This is the engine that powers speed and experimentation. And this next concept, this is one of the most powerful ideas in all of modern software. How do we finally kill that old, it works on my machine problem, once and for all? Well, we do it with containers. Now you might be thinking, hold on, isn't that just a virtual machine? Well, kind of, but not really. A virtual machine, a VM, has to boot up an entire, full-blown operating system. It's heavy and slow. A container, on the other hand, just packages up the application and only what it absolutely needs. It shares the main operating system of the machine it's running on, which makes it incredibly lightweight and super fast. We're talking starts in milliseconds, not minutes. This efficiency is what lets us run really complex stuff at a massive scale. Okay, so we have our philosophy, we have our tools, now it's time to connect them all together. It's time to build the automation engine that powers this entire loop. This is where the real magic happens. And that engine is the CI/CD pipeline. That stands for continuous integration and continuous delivery. So check it out. A developer pushes a code change. That one small action kicks off this whole automated chain reaction. A server grabs the code, builds it, runs a whole bunch of tests, packages it up into a container, and then deploys it. Every single change gets checked and verified, giving the team constant, fast feedback and the confidence to release software whenever they want, reliably. And what's the result of all this? What's the payoff? Well, the data is just staggering. High-performing teams that really embrace these practices can recover from a production failure 2,604 times faster than their peers. Think about that. That's not just a little better, it's a revolutionary leap in being resilient. That means less downtime for your customers and way less stress for your team.
All right, so we can now build and deploy a single app with amazing speed and quality. But what happens when you have hundreds or maybe thousands of different services all running at once? How do you manage that level of complexity? Welcome to the final level of the journey.
To operate at that kind of scale, you need a critical mental shift. It's called the pets versus cattle mindset. In the old world, servers were pets. You gave them cute names, you cared for them by hand, and if one got sick, it was a crisis. You'd work all night to nurse it back to health. In the new world, servers are cattle. They're anonymous, they're identical, and they're disposable. If one gets sick, you don't fix it, you just replace it, automatically. Failure stops being a crisis and becomes a normal, expected event.
So if your containers are the cattle, who's the rancher managing the entire herd? That's Kubernetes. Think of it as the command system, the brain of the whole operation. It automates everything, deciding where to run your containers, automatically replacing them if they fail, scaling them up or down if traffic spikes, and handling all the complicated networking.
And how do you build the whole ranch for your cattle in the first place? For that, you use infrastructure as code tools, like Terraform. You literally write code that defines your entire cloud environment, all your networks, your databases, your Kubernetes cluster, everything. That code becomes your blueprint. You check it into Git, your teammates can review it, and you can use it to stamp out identical environments over and over again with the push of a button. So here's the most crucial point. We've talked about all these amazing tools and processes, but at the end of the day, DevOps is fundamentally about culture. It's about people. It's about breaking down those silos and working together. The tools are just there to help us build the bridges between our teams. So the real question to walk away with is your team still building walls, or are you building bridges?